Hi, I'm Rebecca Thompson Hitt. I'm the founder and executive director of the Consciously Parenting Project, and I am here with.
I'm Rachel Rothman, and I'm going to be help facilitating the Healing Story Circle experiences.
Thank you so much for being here, Rachel. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Healing Story Circle process and what a Healing Story Circle looks like. So if you've watched the other video, we talked a little bit about how one person takes a turn sharing and the other people are reflecting. And we use that word because it's like a mirror. We are sending back to the person that we heard share what we're hearing. And each person hears something else, partially depending upon our own stories and the things that really stick out to us. And because each person sees something a little bit different, that reflection comes back to the person who gets to say, oh, that's right, or that's not quite right, or actually that helps me clarify that's not, this piece right here wasn't quite right, but it helps me find what piece is mine and right for me. So there is this, when one person shares, so let's say that I shared an experience that I had this morning that was really frustrating, where I was having a conflict with my partner, and so I would share. Oh, it was really, difficult. I really didn't feel heard. I was having a really hard time. I noticed that I was sweating and my heart was racing, and that was my experience of it. So if Rachel was listening, if she was one of the listeners in the circle, then she would share what she heard me say. And not only what she heard, but what she saw as I was talking, if she noticed that I sped up, and then any strengths that she also saw in that story. I heard that you really stood up for yourself. I heard that you really stayed connected to yourself in that process, that you were really reflecting on what was happening in your body. So there's this piece, and then there's also this other piece of, have I got you? So in Haiti Schleifer's work of Crossing the Bridge, she talks about, have I got you? It's not just the words. It's not just, can I repeat back what you said, but have I got you? Have I got the essence of what you're communicating here? And we have the opportunity to say, that's not quite right, or what I really need you to hear about that is this. We don't have to be perfect reflectors. And I think that that's really important. Don't put the pressure there. I had a lot of people coming into my last round who were like, oh, but I need to do it right. And it's like, you're going to learn and you're practicing. And you don't have to get it right, because it's also the other person who's sharing's responsibility to say, yeah, oh, that was partially right. Or, actually, it was exactly what I said. But when I hear it back, I see something else that's important about that I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about perfection. It's just about showing up and listening and being present. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. Um, the other thing is how to take a pause. So, like sometimes when we get really, our stories are really powerful in our bodies, and taking that pause, that time to just stop and slow our story down helps us to really have it it helps us to embody that story, and it feels more part of us, right? It feels more like we're able to not be as much up here and just be more in our body. Do you want to say anything else about that part, Rebecca?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important about a healing story circle is that there's a space for your thoughts, your feelings, and how it feels in your body. And so I often ask those questions as people are sharing. Well, what did that feel like in your body when that happened? Because it's that connection to our whole self, and slowing down and sometimes pausing. And often when we have a place that's not integrated, or we're still not done with it, it's still alive in us, and that's part of the reason we're talking about it. And we'll have these spaces where we speed up, And those are the spaces that it's not integrated. And so I will often say, let's take a pause right there. Or if someone brings up something that's really big and there's a lot of feeling around it, we take a pause. And that's not only for the person who is sharing, but also for the listeners. Let's all slow back down again together. And that makes the space for the integration to happen, for the thoughts, the feelings, and the body sensations to have a space to be.
Right. It allows it to settle, it allows it to settle in our body so we can continue on to in a different way.
That's right. And that we're not rushing to hurry up and tell the whole story and all of the pieces and all of the things that happened, because then we're not integrating. We're doing probably the same thing. We're speeding through it and we're trying to hurry up. And the intention of these healing story circles is to slow us down enough and have that space for reflection so that we can actually integrate our experience, especially if it's something we're stuck in, so that we
Right.
don't have to keep reliving it and rehashing it. And God, I spent so many years rehashing the same stories because I couldn't get out of them. And this is that slowing down process that helps us to move out of those spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other concept, especially if we're new to healing story circles, is this idea of share, check, share. So, especially for your very first healing story circle, pick something that feels comfortable for you to share. So, it may not be, the biggest, scariest thing that's ever happened to you. I would encourage you to pick something that is, um, maybe something that's mildly irritating, or that, that you just find yourself thinking a lot about. It doesn't have to be like Haiti Schleifer talks about, like the scale, like couples come in, because a lot of her work is couples come in and they want to talk about, the affair. They want to talk about like the number 10 thing on the scale of 0 to 10. They want to talk about the biggest thing. And she's like, talk about how the cap wasn't put back on the toothpaste. Like, start there. Start with something, share that, feel how it feels to have that reflection, to be seen in that way with something that's not a huge emotional charge for you. And then if it still feels safe, share a little more. But ease yourself in. Otherwise you have like a vulnerability hangover, I think is what Brene Brown calls it. So it's just that little step. How does it feel? Check back in with yourself. Okay, that was okay. All right, I'll share a little bit more. And then the cap of the toothpaste fell on the floor. And but we go ahead and we say the next part of the story, and we let ourselves just drop down into it.
Thanks. So also there's gonna be an extra layer of support within the container that we're holding. And so we're gonna have a place where if you're having a hard time, if you're really struggling in the space, you're gonna be able to request to have some extra support. And then we'll be able to break out of that space and have a separate conversation to bring you back into yourself, into your safety, into whatever it is that came up for you. We're going to be able to integrate that a little bit more and then be able to come back into that space.
Right. Because sometimes someone's story, even though it's not your story, touches on a part of your own story. And in that, sometimes it's like so big, and it happens for all of us. Even my mentors, I've had experiences with my mentors where part of something that someone shares brings up something, and we can't really go on. So we stop, we slow down, and you'll be able to make that request. If you've got something that's really big and you can't stay present anymore with the group, then we have the breakout rooms, and so you'll have someone go with you and be with you, let you process whatever's coming up for you. When you're ready, come back into the group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I alluded to it a minute ago, but this idea of dropping in, vulnerability, being present, and allowing feelings to come up, is a process of being in the space And as other people drop with you and move into a little bit more vulnerability, it gets easier and the container gets a little bit safer. And we all drop at the level that we're ready to drop. And it's not a, how do I say? So dropping in is just something that you allow as you're ready. And it's going back to that idea of share, check, share. As you're ready, you can share a little bit more of your story. But there's no rush. There's no, all right, hurry up, let's get vulnerable. It has to be safe. It has to feel safe. And feelings are completely fine and normal, and we will pause and give you the space that you need if you have feelings that are coming up. It's not rush, rush. In the virtual world, it's less of a problem, but I've been in lots of groups where as soon as someone starts to have some emotion, they like hand the Kleenex over. And it's like, okay, you can stop now. Here, have some Kleenex. And part of this space is that we're not going to rush you. Have your feelings. That's part of this experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when we're in a space like that, it's really easy when someone else has a distraction to make up this whole story that we have about why they're distracted. And so one of the things that we request in this process is that you name that. So like, for instance, if something came up and you need to go to that breakout room, like name that. You don't have to say exactly what happened, but you need to say, hey, something comes up for me and I'm noticing that I need some space. I need to be able to process this. This doesn't have anything to do with you. This is my story. This is mine. And along the same lines of like, maybe the cable guy needs to come and you're waiting for him to come and he's going to come between, like 10 and 4, like they do. Right. And so just like naming that so people just know what's going on so they don't come up with their whole own story about why you got up and walked away.
That's right. That's right. Because in the absence of concrete information, we make up a story. That's right. Yeah. So when someone just disappears and it's really the cable guy, you've got a whole story about how what you're saying is too much and you're too much because that's the story that you've always felt inside. And it's the cable guy. It has nothing to do with you. But it gives you an opportunity to see what your story is. But we're going to try to prevent that as much as we can. So just naming is so important. Yeah. So our goal here in this healing story circle process is really to create a container for safety, for vulnerability. We've got rules, we've got support. I'm always on the healing story circles, and Rachel is going to be my layer of support. There may be others depending upon the venue. And what's needed to help keep that container, to help keep it safe. But we really want to hear from you. If there's something that you're needing, we want to hear that too. Zoom has a chat feature, which is really great. So you can chat with Rachel or myself at any time if you need something else, or if something else is happening, you can chat to the whole group and say, the cable guy finally got here, I'll be right back. And that way you aren't interrupting the flow of whatever's happening, but yet you're still communicating. So yeah, anything else that we're missing, Rachel?
I don't think so. Probably.
Yeah. And part of it is that you just have to show up and have the experience and see how it feels, because so much of it is a felt sense. There's obviously a container that we're creating, and we create structure and all of that, and that's important. And there are things that you need to know about it. And then there's the other part that is the felt sense, that it is your experience of it, and that is what will make the biggest difference for you and really getting what this is like. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much.